Welcome to Visual Audio Sessions. I'm your host, Aaron Dick, and this is Drew Cypert.
James and his almanac between the back windshield and a headache rack. Driving downtown in a flatbed truck, cup of black coffee in a styrene cup with a clock on the dash says 6 a.m. He's got fees to check, got a piff to mend. He was leaving from the coffee stop with a flat lamp farmer, but each other's chops. Reminiscing about the good old days, how the crops are so dry, how I wish it would rain. They don't scream about the politics, but there's a handful of issues that the folk go in, like how DDT should come back again, cause they just don't make it like they did back then. Now they just don't make it like they did back then. Said that he's doing just fine. Flat lamp farmer just laughed and chimed. The Lord's gonna take us out in his time. He spent time being all he can be, serving in the army overseas, with Charlie left shrapnel in his knee. He's gonna bust some land out of CRP. Flatland farmers paid their respects. His wife handled his affairs with grace, a single tear rolling down her face. Preacher gave a eulogy that day when he took the Pope, but all he had to say, well, he wasn't like his highfalutin next of kin. God broke the mold when he made him. God broke the mold when he made him. Space, out here on the cosmic sea, 6 years is a distant memory. I've seen sadness in a dying star, felt the heat of a few quasars, seen Hades comet as she explores the great unknown, faster than the eagle soars. Just a broken-hearted fool, boldly going where no man has before. Well, all the love of mine, I hope this message makes it to you fine. I hope your new man treats you good. Hope he gives you all the things you thought I never could. Oh me, I'm floating around upside down, doing all the things you thought I never would. away with the SolarWinds. I find it hard to dwell on you with the whole universe at my little round window view. The solar system look mighty fine from a distance measured in space-time. It gets lonesome but don't despair. I've made lots of friends, even had a few love affairs. Out with the Martians of Barsoom, you ought to see what's shaking there. Well, all laws, love of mine, I hope this message makes it to you fine. Well, I hope your mama finally approves, but we both know that's something she'll never do. Oh, me, I'm loving life, and just for spite, I hope that life gets just as good for you. Well, all laws, love of mine, I hope this message makes it to you fine, yeah. Well, all laws, love of mine, ooh.
Drew, that was awesome, man. That was love listening to what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you.
That was a long lost love of mine.
That's right.
Which is a, as described, space
themed
breakup song.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about that while we're on that.
Well,
where did the inspiration come from?
This is all very recent. I literally finished the song like a week ago. I came up with the chorus, which wasn't necessarily like space themed, but like I came up with the chorus, both of those little choruses, because they're a little different from each other. And I started to write the verses, and I started out with like I guess what you call like a space themed line that was just supposed to be like symbolic. But then I kept coming up with different things that were all space themed. And before it was all said and done, like after all my lines were written, it was completely space themed. So I thought, well, I guess this is just a space themed breakup song now. So yeah, just kind of happened.
So as kind of to let our audience know, I mean, we do a little questionnaire to get to know the bands a little bit ahead of time, do our research, whatever, ahead of time. So you did list, some of your influences musically, writing, which honestly, musically, I totally see it. Rockabilly, Stray Cats. I mean, Brian Setzer, one of my favorites, grew up on that band. But interestingly enough, Jim Croce and Randy Newman. So that's coming more from a storytelling side of things, I would guess, based on, what we know of them. I mean, how they tell their stories from kind of like literal, personal, almost like they live the experience.
First person, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I like to write like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with writing music that's a bit more, I don't want to say vague, but writing music that's a bit more, I guess I'll just use the word vague, striking out negative connotations to that. I try to stray away from that a little bit. I like to write things that are a little bit more literal, and a little bit more to the point. It's what I like to do. Let's
go back to Stray Cats, because I mean, Brian Setzer's probably one of those guitarists that doesn't get a whole lot of credit for, being the badass that he is.
No
and
kidding about that.
Really defining rockabilly as far as bringing it to the forefront. Because we know rockabilly goes back to, way back.
Elvis Presley.
Yeah, even before that.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's just kind of the crossover with blues music and everything kind of coming into defining rock and roll, really, is where it comes from. So, but, you kind of grew up in the same generation I did, a little bit younger probably, but Brian Setzer, for me, was a huge influence in the type of rock and roll I like. Rockabilly, definitely.
Yeah.
I hear it in your tones. Obviously, like you even mentioned, ZZ Top's probably one for style.
Yeah.
Which is that blues background, that rock and roll. So talk about that a little bit. Tell me, like, are these your major influences?
Dude, I think Brian Setzer and Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top are my number, as far as the guitar tone is concerned, when it comes to electric guitar, definitely my top influences. I do want to mention also that I think I'd actually count both of them as influences on songwriting as well. I think, and to preface that, I think it's really important to remember that when you write music, you're always trying to make your audience, or any art for that matter, you're trying to make the audience or the person experiencing the art feel a certain way, right? Like there are certain songs that are sad, they're supposed to make you feel sad. Happy songs make you feel happy, you know? And I think that for me, ZZ Top, as well as the Stray Cats, mastered the feeling of feeling cool, right? And
Right.
I think that gets overlooked a lot, you know?
Yeah.
You look at something like Just Got Paid or something like that, you know? Just got paid today, got me a pocket full of change, got my brown paper bag and my take-home pay. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
That sounds badass, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm about that. Yeah, so
right.
they were big influences on songwriting as well, I'd say. Absolutely.
And I think ZZ Top is almost like Texas cool.
Oh, dude.
I mean, definitely. I mean, that's where they come from, obviously.
Yeah.
So we know this. But being from Ohio myself, like I know there's a different vibe about ZZ Top that I never understood until I moved to Texas.
Right. And I think with ZZ Top, I think the trick with them is, and you get this a lot when you hang out with more people outside of Lubbock, you know, more in the surrounding communities. There are people who do this thing called what I like to call country dumb, is where they say things that are almost kind of poetic, but like definitely don't have a whole lot of that air of intellect to it. You know what I mean? And they do it intentionally, right? And I
Right.
think ZZ Top channels that really well. Like you can write a song as a simple person and it can still be incredibly poetic, right?
Right.
And I think Billy Gibbons and those guys, they've really got that nailed, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And Billy Gibbons, for that matter, is just I think he's kind of like the textbook example of what a cool person is supposed to be.
Right.
Like just the way he I'm not trying to sit here and fangirl over Billy Gibbons, but it seems like that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm just going to roll with it. And also, you mentioned Rumbled in Brighton from Stray Cats. I think, in my personal opinion, that is some of the best bridge guitar tone ever. That song, that intro, doom 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 doom.
Yeah.
It's so good. Those guys are so good. Man.
Yeah. Speaking of cool,
Yeah.
I want to segue.
Cool.
Let's talk about your equipment.
Cool. All right, let's do it.
Go ahead.
So this is a homemade cigar box guitar, right? So it's got a bolt-on neck. So this is a lot more. So I've made cigar box guitars that were a lot more hands-on, homemade sort of thing. This is actually a bit more of a player's guitar. So it's got a bolt-on neck made by Warmoth. So I put a little bit of time and energy into this one. It plays a lot like a Telecaster. Looks a lot like a Telecaster. For those of you who know what that is, it's definitely that. I play all that through a homemade guitar amplifier. This amp head was what's called a tube mono block. It's a piece of stereo equipment essentially that I gutted and repurposed to be a guitar amplifier. This is a stereo speaker that also got gutted and put a guitar speaker in it. So 100% homemade there, 100% homemade here, and of course, second instrument on the floor here is a genuine Samsonite suitcase. Got a bass pedal on this side right here, and a little brush slap against the license plate on the front side. And that's where all that racket comes from.
That's awesome. You know, when I was talking earlier, just kind of in the background, you had mentioned something about how what this kind of does, and the way that you've created this, is it kind of forces you to play more to the instruments rather than just playing what you play.
Yep. I would almost say that should be universally true for everybody. Like we were talking about earlier. I think it's very common for people to cycle through equipment constantly, and they don't give themselves enough time to adapt to the environment they found themselves in. Like when I built this amplifier, I had no clue what it was going to sound like. I had a vague idea, but it wound up being a very gainy, high output amplifier, and I wasn't used to playing that. I had to learn how to play that, because well, I already dumped a whole bunch of money into this thing, so I guess this is my sound now. So
right,
yeah,
which is cool, because I think in a lot of ways sometimes it is those happy accidents that we just kind of adapt to, and then all of a sudden that becomes who you are. So I mean that in a lot of ways, I mean, you probably were influenced with the rockabilly style, but in a lot of ways you gained a tone by doing what you've done. Yeah, like that literally works exactly for what you already like. Yeah, but it just has that dirty, gritty like, here I am, take it for what it's worth, feel.
It's got that Marshall sound, man. And like, if you want to talk about Billy Gibbons, that's quintessential, man. That Marshall, that sort of Marshall tone, you know?
Yeah.
Very punchy, mid-rangey, almost compressed. Yeah.
Yep. It's cool. And then, of course, you can't be a one-man band without creating your own beats.
That's right. Nope.
The Samsonite made famous probably mostly in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Samsonite.
That's right.
But, anyway, it's would you say $3 at a thrift store or something like that?
I might have paid a little more than that. Now the amp head here, I bought this at a swap meet. I paid $6 for this, but the suitcase I probably paid $25-$30 for. You know, it's in pretty good shape. A lot of these things are actually kind of rickety, so this one's is still now in pretty good shape. So yeah, not much to it, man. The suitcase, it's really the mics and what these guys do behind the microphones really makes the difference on this.
Yeah. So like, what's the drive for doing this? I mean, it's obviously like most people just want to go buy a guitar,
sure,
sit in Guitar Center for an hour, find the right one that they like. It's a good tone. I'm going to run with it.
Yeah, save $2,000.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, is it literally that?
Oh.
I mean, is it saving money, or is it like I'm a creative person?
I like to consider myself a tinkerer, right? Like, I do love playing music, but I also love making things. And I got a lot of that from my dad. My dad was the kind of person who also tinkers a lot. In fact, this Cigar Box guitar I made with him. And if it wasn't for his knowledge of woodworking from years of being a cabinet maker and being a carpenter as well, I wouldn't be able to achieve any of this stuff. So big shout out to my dad. But I kind of grew up with that mindset of like, well, don't think that there isn't anything that you can't at least learn how to do. You know what I mean? So right. And it's kind of just how I am. You know, like if I find something that piques my interest, I don't think, well, I don't think I can do that. Like, literally, I posted on Facebook the other day, I think, and this is something I plan on doing in the near future, I want to start making bass fishing lures out of wood. Like, sweet. I saw a video on YouTube and I thought that looks cool, so let's do that.
Sweet.
So it's not just music, it's pretty much any aspect. I just like to tinker with things.
It was kind of going back to the thought of the persona.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that kind of in the other room there before we started this. So.
Yeah, image branding and developing a consistent persona. And that doesn't mean to be fake, you know what I mean? But just to be yourself and be consistent about being yourself, you know what I mean? And don't be afraid to just like put yourself out there. Like if you have a funny thought and you think it's funny, put it on your Instagram, like, you know. Or if you have something you want to be earnest about, like don't feel weird about putting it out there, because honestly, people want connection also more than anything else, like content, but also connection through that content. Right. So not just buy my merch and come to my shows, you know.
Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, that's something you're good at too, which is, you know, a lot of bands now, I mean, the way they make their money is merch. So, you know, you got to have stuff at the shows, stickers, hats, T-shirts.
That's right.
And then, of course, people don't really buy physical audio anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're mostly streaming. But, you know, there's still people like, which I think you said that you have some vinyls that you're still trying to sell from your EP. And a lot of people have, that's kind of the way they're going, because it's like, it's something you can take home. It still has the music on it if you have a record player at the house, but it is kind of a collectible. I mean, it's something you can hang on the wall. It's something that you can do. Just to have a physical media, which is good. I mean, that's something that we're lacking anymore in modern times with, you know, I remember back in the day of taking home a cassette tape and you pull out the liner notes, reading the lyric sheets and like looking at the artwork,
the bios.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember Guns N' Roses, like, when I first got that Appetite for Destruction, and I'm like looking at the art inside, I'm going, I don't know if I'm allowed to look at this. Like some of this stuff is so graphic, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that rabbit trail there. But the point of what I'm saying is that, you know, there's still a need for having, like you said, a physical connection to the artist. So obviously merch is important.
Merch is incredibly important.
And that's one of the things that I think you're really good at too, is not just in the Instagram social media aspect, but it's also branding yourself through your merchandise. So talk a little bit about your...
Well, the merchandise... Well, number one, going back to the tinkering thing and doing things myself, I do make other than the vinyl records, obviously I can't press vinyl records, but the hats, the koozies, those all are made by me in my house with a heat press machine. So once again, it's all there's a theme here, like the homemade theme. So yeah, I think that's merch. Merch is incredibly important for me. It's how I make quite a bit of money, as you were saying. And as far as the vinyl records are concerned, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more artists moving towards that.
Right.
Because like you get streams, and I just checked my streams the other day. It's funny because I literally checked it yesterday, and my last record has been up on Spotify and iTunes for about a year, maybe a little over a year. And I did my first payout for like $72, which is like,
Yeah,
but honestly, like selling the vinyl records is kind of critical for getting that out there and also generating revenue from that recording process. And nobody wants CDs anymore,
Of course, yeah.
It's nothing. Not to say there's anything wrong with people who collect CDs or like CDs. It's just there's not much of a market for that anymore.
Right.
So I think what's super critical is to move towards things that are gaining traction. And vinyl right now is definitely gaining traction.
Yeah. So in thinking about the live performing, we always like to ask, what do you think, like, to the locals? Where's your favorite place to play?
Man, this is tough because I as a musician and Aaron, I know you play around town as well. You develop relationships with people, and it's kind of like, it's like when you have lots of friends, it's like, well, which one's your best friend? It's like, I don't know, man. Like, I like them all for different reasons. Flipper's Tavern, it's just been like a home base for me for a couple of years. I was kind of on ground level there when they first opened and when they first started doing live music. Blue Light, obviously, it's just a quintessential place for Lubbock, I feel like, and the sound is always really good in there. That's a shout out to Casey Heckman. And Cook's Garage, it's another great venue. And I feel like I meld in there really well, with the whole cars, signs, the rockabilly thing. Like, I just fit there really well. So
we have some, and that's the thing. I kind of want to, I asked that question specific because this is about local buildup. I mean, and you can't be a local musician without knowing local venues. And we obviously want to promote local venues. So hopefully when people watch these, they'll know the places to go. So real quick, let's talk about your stuff, your music. Yeah. This is obviously why we're here.
Yeah.
You have music. So the EP is called Pure Sophistry.
That's right.
And you can find that on?
You can find that on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can find digital music. I also sell vinyl records. You can find that on drewcypert.com, and I'll ship that stuff directly to you. Yeah.
Sweet. And you probably have an inventory that you're ready to get rid of, right?
Yeah, so, I do. Yeah, got let's my wife's ready for them to get them out of our garage. So
there you go. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And then of course we talked about your social media, but we actually didn't. We kind of did plug it, but you do have the Instagram, which is
One Man Bandito with underscores, so it's _man_bandito, and that's on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook, Drew Cypert. One Man Band. Also, check out my website, drewcypert.com. It's where I sell my merch, keep you up to date on shows, things of that nature.
Perfect. So on that note, I think we've gotten to know Drew pretty well. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things, which is really interesting, fascinating to me. So we hope you guys have enjoyed that part of getting to know Drew. He's got another song coming up for us called Ward Number 9, which is, as referenced, some of the stuff we've discussed, and we're really excited to hear that out and check it out. So guys, stay tuned, listen to Drew's last song, and enjoy.
All right, so this song's called Ward Number 9, and it's kind of weird.
Should be serving my time. They tried to pin me, but I moved too quick. I made the easy case that I was mentally sick. I used my wits, my charisma and charm to serve an easy sentence on a funny farm. no system with my little scheme. Or maybe it's the water or the food they serve. Or maybe it's the pills they give to calm my nerves. I tell you, doc, I'm perfectly sane. Now could you please remove the insects that you put in my brain? Discovery that I'm an integral part of scientific feats. The doctor tells me that I need to relax as the petrified nurse hooks up my diode hat to that Hewlett Packard computing machine. Can you please explain to mama what they done to me? Now that they made haste to get me a jacket with my arms around my waist, I bide my time, expanding my scope with intellectual discussions with imaginary folks till they put an ice pick in my inner eye. I'll be deaf, dumb, and docile up on ward number 9.